Hi there, I'm Elaine Smith, the Artistic Director of the Clamour Theatre Company. We're holding these creative conversations with actors, directors, and playwrights so that you can learn more about Clamour and the artists who work with us.
Welcome to this edition of a Clamour Creative Conversation. Today, we're talking with Elizabeth Irwin, a playwright selected for our 7th Annual Playwrights Retreat, whose play Harm Reduction is going to be read on February 26th as part of Clay and Water 2025 at the Regal Center in Penny Farms, Florida. Welcome, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us. Why don't you introduce yourself, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself. It can be whatever you'd like us to know, your bio, your background, anything you like.
Sure. I'm Elizabeth Irwin. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I grew up in Massachusetts, but I've been in New York for about a couple of decades now. And in addition to being a playwright, I am also a teacher. My background is in education. And so a lot of what I do kind of combines those two things. And I have been a lover of the theater for a long time. When I was a very young kid, I was in community theater doing plays and whatnot. But now I really love being on the writing side of it.
Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about harm reduction. What can you tell us about the play without giving away too much of the plot?
Sure. The overall environment of the play is a group of people. One of them has a foster child who is a teenager, and they are friends with the neighbors down the hall from them who have a similar aged child. And during this play, what we are navigating is whether this kind of ad hoc group of people can become the village that this foster teenager needs in order to really get into the next phase of her life where she's able to make choices for herself and feel some agency over her life. So that's what we're exploring in the play. Along with that comes a lot of ideas about, what makes a good parent. What does it take to, raise a child, and what if some of our ideas about that are not what we thought? So there's just a lot of, I guess, probably more questions raised and answered, but certainly jumping off points for people to think about.
Great. So why did you decide to apply to the retreat?
I decided to apply to the retreat because I love that it provided two things. One is like a way to share some of my writing with a community of people, the other writers, the residents who are in and around Penny Farms. And also, though, the idea of getting some time to work in this, peaceful environment, both, I'm sure I'll be doing some rewriting of my play, but also just a chance to work on some other things to find some, peace and quiet in doing that. And so I loved that. And I love the idea of being able to meet some other female playwrights as well, and just kind of make those connections and hear their work.
So you sort of answered part of this, but anything in particular you're hoping to get out of the reading or the retreat in general?
I think I have not, really worked on this play in a larger community. So I'm excited for that, to just kind of get some audience feedback and fellow playwright feedback, and just kind of see where this play is living in people's brains, and, hearts and whatnot. And I think that would be like the biggest thing I'm looking forward to.
Good. So now tell me, do you have a favorite play of your own?
I don't think I've written my favorite play yet.
Okay, that's fair.
There are plays I've written in the past that are close to my heart. some more so than others. But I also think that as a writer, I'm always evolving. And I think all of my plays will end up in the thing that I end up loving the most, maybe not directly as far as the topic or something like that, but I think that the play that I, will write in the future that I'll love the most will be part of, the growth that came from all the other things that I wrote before.
Good. Okay. So now we ask this question sort of so that we can add to everybody's reading list. What are 3 favorite plays that you may have seen or read by other authors, and what is it that you like about them?
One of my very favorite plays of all time is What the Constitution Means to Me by Heidi Schreck, which she wrote and performed. I think that is probably the pinnacle of playwriting, in my opinion. It is somehow takes the personal and political, intermarries them. It's such a genuinely moving play. When I saw it twice in the theater, and then very recently read it and was surprised by how moving I still felt it on the page. It's what it does, I think, extremely well is invite the audience in to the story, even while understanding that perhaps some of the people in the audience might be those who potentially caused, some of the harm that Heidi writes about. And that's a really delicate balance to achieve. And she does it really well. It's such a beautiful experience, I think, to read or to see that play, because you do feel like you are invited into this and you are invited to consider what she's talking about as far as the government, women's rights, etc. Also, I would say Jackie Sibel's Drury play, We Are Proud to Present a Presentation. I'm giving the shortened title, which was at this point, like more than 10 years ago at Soho Rep. The structure of that play is extremely interesting. The way she approaches the topics in there. I watched it and read it later and was just truly left there feeling as though like so many of my thoughts have been like rearranged. I think it's a really, really beautiful piece. And then the last one that I would bring up, it's hard because I love so many plays, but I think the last one that this is not a great example because it's not a reading list play. I don't know that a script would exist for it, but I just saw it a couple of weeks ago at Playwrights Horizons called Many Happy Returns. It may eventually exist in script form, but it has a lot of dance in it that is narrated. And it was a very good example of being about a topic. So the topic was, it was kind of like a meditation on aging without being so direct about the topic. It was not like a point A to point B story. I was this age and now I'm this age and here's what happened. It really was like stepping back from the topic and approaching it from all these different viewpoints and incorporating like physical movement as well. And I really when I left there, I was incredibly moved. So yeah, those are the 3 that like over time and recently have been really meaningful pieces of theater for me.
Good. So now, is there a book that has been helpful to you in your development as a playwright, or if not, maybe just in life in general that you find inspiring?
Yeah, a friend gifted me, I think like 2 Christmases ago, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, who, is known more for like being a music producer, etc. But this was like a general book on creativity. And it's, short, sometimes just 1 or 2 pages up to maybe like 4 or 5 pages long, little like vignettes, kind of meditations on the creative act. And even though it wasn't specifically about playwriting, it really could apply to any art. I really enjoyed it because I would just read like one a day for like over the course of a year. Um, and each time it kind of made me reconsider or just even look closer at my artistic process. One of the things that I still remember it stuck out to me was like him talking about how one of the I don't know if he used this word, but self-defeating processes that we can go through as an artist is if you are super interested in a lot of things and you have an idea and then you have a different idea and this, that, and so your attention is like in a whole bunch of different places. And, you know, we think of that as being very like fruitful in our creativity, but how that actually can be just as big of a hurdle as, you know, writer's block, not having anything, you know, or creator's block or whatever else. And that's something that I rarely suffer from writer's block, but I do suffer from having a multitude of ideas and having my brain be in many different places, you know. And so thinking about that as a way to sometimes procrastinate because you're not putting your full attention on one thing. So that's something that and it's not something I've solved, but something that I think about as far as, you know, what it means to pare down and how that can actually be beneficial.
Good. Well, I've got some reading to do, clearly, for those all sound really interesting. So that's great. For our viewers, if you would like to know more about Elizabeth, you can look for her and her work on the New Play Exchange website at newplayexchange.org. And for more information, you can visit her website, elizabethirwinwriter.com. And if you'd like to attend the free reading of Elizabeth's play, Harm Reduction, on February 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern at the Regal Center, you can make a reservation on Clamour's website, which is also the place to go for information on our other events. That's clamourtheatre.org. You can find us on Facebook as Clamour Theatre Company. We will post all of those URLs in the description below. And if you would like to see more interviews like this one, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today and letting our audience get to know something about you. We are really looking forward to the reading and very glad you've been able to join us for Clay and Water 2025.